Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Sebastian. Welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we have a very interesting show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Shannon Sharpe with his Michael Jordan hating self. So that's what we're going to get into. So what happened yesterday? There was a very big argument that took place, or debate. Let me say debate, argument, debate, however you want to say it. These are just words. Very big debate that took place yesterday on ESPN First Take. And it was centered on some comments that LeBron James made, which were when they asked him at the press conference during media day, how much do you have left in the tank? LeBron then swiftly responded with, I feel like I have a lot that I can contribute. I feel like I have a lot left. He was very encouraged by his performance at the Olympics. I guess that surprised him, that rejuvenated him, invigorated him. So that's what he said. The panel then heard that, and the conversation went off into this tangent about, LeBron trying to make excuses, and then other people like, but what do you want him to say? He answered the question and all of that, right? And as I was listening to these guys go back and forth, I already knew at some point this conversation was going to shift towards what LeBron is doing at age 40 versus what Michael Jordan was doing at age 40. And of course, in typical fashion, Shannon Sharpe, with his Michael Jordan hating self, decided, you know what? This would be a perfect opportunity for me to draw a contrast between MJ in the later stages of his career versus LeBron, and to show you what LeBron is doing versus what Michael Jordan couldn't do. And that's what Shannon Sharpe decided to do. He decided to start taking shots at Michael Jordan. So for those of you who didn't hear what Shannon had to say about MJ, want to play for you now, and then want to come back and really get into the show. Take a listen to Shannon Sharpe's hating ass over here.
To answer your question, do LeBron James have a lot left in the tank? Yes, we was asking this question 3 years ago. And the answer, yes, he's defeated for the time. We get all that. But when you playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the most historical franchises in sports, and you're LeBron James, every single season that you step foot onto the floor is championship or bust. There's no other way around it. LeBron James said it himself. I'm going to walk away from the game if I feel like I'm cheating the game. LeBron James' goal every time he step on the floor is to go out there and complete the mission. Can he complete the mission this season? Can he step on the floor and take a backseat or get the most out of Anthony Davis? Can he go out and make J.J. Redick look good after getting Darvin Ham fired? That's the question we need to be asking. Is he ready for that moment? I'm not downplaying what he did with the Olympics.
Hey, Swagoo.
I'm not down.
Hey, Swagoo.
Oh, here we go.
Yep. Hey, Swagoo, you see how Perk come out here? I know a guy that played 2 years where championship or buzz wasn't the expectation, but that ain't none of my business.
Hey, we ain't gonna talk about that, Shay. We're gonna leave that alone. And he wasn't in your 22.
That ain't none of my business, Swagoo. That ain't none of my business. I don't know why I brought it up. I just jump about you.
You bringing up, you acting like he stayed with the Chicago Bulls. You understand? The man went to the Washington Wizards after leaving the team for a couple of years. He was trying to get an ownership job. He was trying to get the ownership.
James go time to follow.
Hold on.
Name the place that LeBron James. Hold on, Stephen A. Name the place that Go James has gone and the title didn't follow. Name the place that Go James has gone and the title didn't follow.
You can't. That's the beauty of it.
That's fair. That's fair. Excuse me. Name a championship finals that Michael Jordan lost.
You can't.
Sit your behind there.
I can name a
Sit down. Sit back.
You can't do that either.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
See, we trying to avoid this conversation, but you keep pulling us in. Shay, we trying to avoid the conversation.
In the 80s?
No, they did not.
Shay, they didn't play NBA finals in the 80s.
So we own the 90s.
Avoid it, Shay.
No, 80s.
Shay, avoid
it. He got there in the 80s. He got there in the 80s, Stephen A.
Avoid.
I said he didn't go to the finals in the 80s.
Avoid it.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
I'm not getting sucked in.
It wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough.
So you heard what Shannon Sharpe had to say. If you listen carefully, Swagoo was in the background. He was hilarious. He was just basically saying, don't do that. Don't do that. He was talking to Shannon like, let's not have this conversation. Let's not do that. Let's not go here. Why do you think Swagoo was doing that? Because he already knew that if they got into this conversation in a serious way, they was going to get eaten alive. And that's exactly what's about to happen right now. Because Stephen A. Smith, I'm sure he had a lot on his mind. He's producing the show, so he couldn't really come up with all the arguments to really combat Shannon Sharpe in that moment. But I do. I got all the arguments when it comes to this LeBron James versus Michael Jordan thing. So let's address some of the points that Shannon Sharpe made. One of the first points he made was, why didn't Michael Jordan win with the Chicago Bulls? I mean, with the Washington Wizards. And the second point he made was, well, if MJ was so great, why didn't he win any basketball games or win any NBA championships or go to any NBA championships in the 80s, considering he came into the NBA in the mid 80s, 84. If I was Stephen A. Smith at that moment, I would have quickly responded with, I would have been like, so why didn't LeBron James win a title in 2011? I would have responded with that, but I digress. Back to the point. Okay. What I want to do is, because I feel like a lot of people say, oh, Jordan couldn't win in his later years, but they don't realize the team that Jordan was playing with and the lack of talent that Michael Jordan was playing with compared to the talent that LeBron has been playing with since the age of 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. So we want to actually get into those Wizards rosters. But before we even get into that, today's video is brought to you by our sponsor, Game Time. With only 4 months left until the end of the year, I look forward to creating special moments with family and friends by attending various theaters, shows, plays, and sporting events. And when it comes time for me to look for tickets, I absolutely love to use Game Time. Game Time is one of the most reliable marketplaces for last-minute tickets to the most popular events in sports, music, and theater in more than 60 cities across the United States and Canada. Game Time saves me money, time, and peace of mind, so I don't have to sort through thousands of tickets looking for the best prices or worry about whether or not if they're authentic or whether if I'm going to receive them on time. Game Time Picks, one of my favorite Game Time tools, analyzes thousands of tickets for all of your favorite events near your location and finds you the best possible deal so you don't have to. For example, I'm looking forward to this upcoming concert at Madison Square Garden of one of my favorite composers, Hans Zimmer. Here, I can select the all-in price to see the total ticket price up front, no hidden fees. And now I can sort through the best possible deals I can find. I can choose the cheapest deals, the great deal, or the amazing deal. Once you select the ticket you want, you can use their panoramic seat view to ensure you know exactly what you're getting before you buy. And if you're like me and always make plans at the last minute, you can grab tickets up to 90 minutes after the event has started. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and use redeem code CLNS for $20 off. And remember, whenever you support this sponsor, you're supporting this channel. Thank you. Now let's look at Jordan's actual roster. Let's look at the 02-03 roster. On that team, he had Kwame Brown, Brian Cardinal, Juan Dixon, Anthony Goldwire, Brandon Haywood, Larry Hughes, Jared Jeffries, Christian Laettner, Tyronn Lue, Charles Oakley, Brian Russell, Bobby Simmons, Jerry Stackhouse, Eaton Thomas, and Jahadi White, right? So that's the team that he had. That was his roster that year. Let's look at the roster he had the year prior. Courtney Alexander, Kwame Brown, Hubert Davis, Richard Hamilton, Brendan Haywood, Popeye Jones, Christian Laettner, Tyronn Lue, Bobby Simmons, Eaton Thomas, Jahadi White, Chris Whitney. Let me ask you all a question. Who on there was a perennial all-star to begin with? Number one. Number two, who on that roster was at the talent level of Anthony Davis? Please let me hear it. You remember the first year LeBron got to the Lakers? You remember that year he didn't make the playoffs? Do you know one of the reasons why he didn't make the playoffs? Because he didn't really have all-time level talent playing with him. Did LeBron play good individually? Absolutely he did. But in terms of making the playoffs, he didn't make the playoffs. So the very thing that Shannon said, well, why didn't Jordan make the finals all of those years, is the very same thing that happened to LeBron his first year in LA. He didn't have any all-star talent in terms of his teammates. The moment he got Anthony Davis, things changed. So the question now becomes, do you think the Wizards would have been able to make the playoffs if Jordan had Anthony Davis? What about Dwight Howard? What about Rajon Rondo? What about all the other talented players that he played with along? Do you think Jordan would have made the playoffs with the Wizards if he had? Of course he would have made the playoffs. Of course he would. The truth about Jordan's career, about him winning championships, they talk about the 80s. Well, didn't he play in the 80s? People are like, oh, you like to hide the fact that Jordan played. Who's hiding the fact that Jordan played in the 80s? Jordan was doing things in the 80s that we never saw any other basketball player do. So why would somebody try to hide it unless you're an idiot? Like, who's hiding Jordan's numbers and accomplishments in the 80s? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. We're not hiding it as much as people, any more than people are hiding LeBron's numbers in 2018. Like, what are we talking? Who's hiding Jordan's numbers? Who? But the fact of the matter is, for the first 6 years of Michael Jordan's career, he didn't even play with a single All-Star. And the first time he played with an All-Star is when Scottie Pippen, after 3 years, developed into an All-Star in 1990. And that year that Scottie developed into an All-Star, they started going to NBA Finals, and they won 3 straight championships. He took off a year, came back, lost to the Orlando Magic, and ran off another 3 championships. And in an 8-year window, the Chicago Bulls never lost more than 2 games in a row. What are we talking about? The problem during that back and forth with Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe was that he didn't have that information, Stephen A. Smith, to push back. He didn't have it. So it looked like Shannon won, when in reality, Stephen A. Smith just didn't have the information. So let me ask you guys this question in another way. When was the time when LeBron had at least one All-Star teammate and won 3 championships in a row? What period of the NBA was that? When was the period when LeBron had 2 All-Star caliber teammates and won 3 championships in a row? Oh, it never happened? Yeah, you can find, because it never happened. It never, ever happened. Jordan did that 2 times. 2 times. Folks, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? It looked like Shannon won that argument because it was like him taking candy from a baby. Stephen A. Smith had no argument to refute Shannon Sharpe on what he said. But for Shannon to try to bring that up is like, all right, let's bring it up. Let's bring it up. Maybe Swagoo was aware of it, and that's the reason, like, nah, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, son, don't do that, don't do that. But this thing is not a debate. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. This GOAT debate was never a debate to me personally. I think it's a debate that has been made up of a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Is LeBron one of the greatest players that ever played in the NBA? Absolutely. You got to be a flaming a moron to say he's not. He's one of the best players. One of the best players to ever play basketball, in my personal estimation. There is no question about it. But there's a difference between being one of the best players and being the best player. The best player, especially when you're now bringing him to compare him to MJ, I think is laughable. From any angle that you look at it, from the beginning of LeBron's career to the end of his career versus from the beginning of Jordan's career, that there's no point where I said, you know what, man, LeBron might be better than Jordan. The only thing LeBron has going for him is a longevity, playing so well over an extended period of time. But back when Jordan was playing, he was already beating these dudes. So he's like, yo, I've beat you dudes. Like, they can't beat me. They cannot beat me. I've gone to the mountaintop 6 times and I came back victorious. I've never even sniffed a game 7 in my life. Never. I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Jordan is the only athlete, at least NBA player, that I've closely observed, that the more you investigate and study his career, the freakier it gets. He's the only one. Not LeBron, not Kobe, not Wilt. He's the only one. I'm going to give you guys another piece of information that some of y'all may not know. Jordan played 15 years in the NBA. Okay? 15 years. Do you know how many playoff series MJ lost? How many playoff series MJ lost when he had at least one All-Star teammate? Do you know how many? 1. I want you guys to sit down and think about what the hell I just said. I want you to think carefully. Jordan has only lost one playoff series when he had at least one all-star teammate. Kobe could never say that. LeBron for damn sure could never say that. So how do we get to say that LeBron or Kobe are greater than Michael Jordan? How do we get and I'm a Kobe guy. And I think Kobe's closer to Jordan than LeBron. So how can we say the whole thing is a joke? It's a total joke. Jordan's the best two-way player that ever lived. He's the best. And if you hear anybody talk about basketball, they'll tell you the hardest thing to do is to be a two-way player. I've heard so many audios of Carmelo Anthony and other players. And I'm like, man, I ain't playing. Even Gilbert Arenas, man, I ain't playing no defense. Because they know how hard it is to play defense and then score. Jordan, hear this well, made 9 all-first defense teams. 9. Then won 10 scoring titles. Then won a Defensive Player of the Year. What are we even talking about? Gilbert Arenas, I was arguing with him like I think a year ago. He was talking about that game. He scored, was it 60 on the Lakers? He's like, I scored 60 on the Lakers. I scored 60. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at Gil, and I said to him, I'm like, Gil, you acting like as if you're talking like, you're making it seem like as if you're somehow on Kobe's level. And I'm trying to understand. Like, we're talking about a good game you had against Kobe, but you're now trying to overblow this thing into making it seem like, yeah, me and Kobe were comparable players. And I'm like, is that what you're suggesting? And I asked him, I said, Gil, could you have ever, I asked him 2 questions. Could you have ever led the league in scoring and made all first defense? Do you know what he said? No. I asked him, I said, if we replace Kobe Bryant with you on the Los Angeles Lakers in 2010, 2009, 2010, do they beat the Boston Celtics? He said no. So I said, so why are you making such a big, like, why are you hollering and screaming about this 60-point game? Like, why are you spending this much time doing it? For as good as Kobe was, Jordan was better. This thing is not a debate. People feel like, oh, you hate. It ain't a debate. Like, let's cut the nonsense out. Forget about people sitting up there twerking it up all over the place on TV, knocking over drinks, pouring honey all over the table, trying to rub honey on people's backs, screaming and hollering. Forget about all of that. All of that twerkation won't help you. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you on the next show. Peace.